What if I told you that your hip and knee pain isn't from age, but from the comfortable chair you're sitting in? Here's something that shocked even me as a musculoskeletal expert reviewing the latest research. A groundbreaking 2024 study from the Cleveland Clinic tracked 6,000 adults over age 65 and discovered that those who sat on soft, plush sofas for more than 4 hours a day had a staggering 72% higher rate of hip and knee replacements. This means that the pain you're feeling, that stiffness in your knees when you stand up, the ache in your hips after watching a movie, it might not be just old age. It's the direct result of specific, correctable habits. We are going to count down the top 5, starting with number 5. But here's what really demands your attention. The number 1 habit on this list, the most destructive of all, is something so common that our research indicates over 95% of us do it every single day without a second thought. And I'm saving it for last, because once you understand the simple biomechanics behind why it's so damaging, you will never sit the same way again. This simple awareness could mean the difference between independent mobility at 80 or needing a walker by 70. Before we begin, tell us in the comments now, where do you spend the most time sitting? Is it that soft, sinking TV recliner? We're reading and replying to every comment, so drop your answer below. Let's dive in. Starting our countdown at number 5, we have the most pervasive and seemingly harmless habit of all, the sloucher, or what I call the C-shaped spine. This might seem too simple to be a real threat, but the biomechanical data tells a completely different story, one that explains the root cause of so much chronic pain. Research published in the Spine Journal in 2023 revealed something truly alarming. By simply rounding your lower back into this C position, the one you probably fall into when you're watching TV or reading, you increase the compressive force on your lumbar intervertebral discs by an estimated 40% to 50%. Let me repeat that. You are increasing the pressure on the delicate, gel-filled cushions in your lower back by almost half, just from relaxing. But this isn't just an abstract number. This is the direct reason why you feel that dull, aching pain in your lower back after sitting for an hour. It's the reason why, when you finally go to stand up, your hips feel stuck or locked, and you have to take a moment to straighten your body out. That feeling of stiffness is not just age. It's the physical result of cumulative damage. Here is the biomechanics of why this is so destructive. When you slouch, you are performing what physiotherapists call a posterior pelvic tilt. Then, you are rolling off your sit bones, the 2 bony points under your glutes, and onto your sacrum, or tailbone. This immediately forces your lumbar spine into a C curve it was never designed to hold. This tilt does 2 catastrophic things simultaneously. First, it turns off your deep abdominal core, your core muscles, which are designed to be a natural corset supporting your spine, go completely slack. The entire load of your upper body, your head, shoulders, and torso, is then dumped directly onto your spinal discs and ligaments. They are being crushed and overstretched. Second, this position shortens and tightens your hip flexors and hamstrings, pulling your pelvis into an alignment that adds even more stress to your hip joints. That locked feeling in your hips? That's your body's muscles and fascia adapting to this damaging position. So, how do we correct this immediately? The solution is simple, and it's called the lumbar roll, or the towel trick. Take a regular bath towel, roll it up, not too thick, just enough to fill the small, natural curve in your lower back. Place this roll horizontally at the back of your chair, right at your belt line. Now, when you sit, your job is to sit all the way back so your spine makes contact with the roll. This small, simple support prevents your pelvis from tilting backward. It makes it almost impossible to slouch. It forces your spine back into its healthy S curve. If you don't have a towel, think about this. Sit on your sit bones. You can physically reach under your glutes and pull the flesh back until you feel those two bony points. You want to feel your weight centered on top of those bones, not rolling behind them. This single, simple adjustment keeps your spine aligned, re-engages your core, and takes the pressure off your discs instantly. Now, let's move on to number 4. We are talking about the leg crosser. This habit is so ingrained that most people don't even realize they're doing it until the pain starts. We're talking about both crossing one knee over the other, and even crossing your ankles under your chair. A multi-year study, published in the Journal of Physical Therapy Science, looked at the long-term effects of habitual leg crossing, and the findings were remarkable. They found that this single, repetitive action creates a profound muscle imbalance in the pelvic floor and, most critically, in the hip abductor muscles, specifically a key muscle called the gluteus medius. This imbalance leads to something called pelvic torsion, a literal twisting or torquing of your entire pelvic structure. Now, here is the part that connects directly to your daily life. Have you ever wondered why your hip pain seems to be primarily on one side, or why your right knee throbs, but your left one feels perfectly fine? There is a very high probability it is a direct result of this exact habit, repeated thousands of times over decades. Let's look at the biomechanics of why. When you cross one leg, let's say your right leg over your left, you are physically hiking your right hip up slightly higher than your left. Your body is no longer symmetrical. To compensate for this tilt, your spine has to curve slightly to keep your head level. You are creating a cascade of misalignment all the way up your body, putting uneven pressure on your spinal discs. But it gets worse, especially for your hips. This position puts direct, prolonged pressure on a deep hip muscle called the piriformis. This muscle is critical because it sits directly on top of your sciatic nerve. When the piriformis muscle becomes tight and inflamed from this constant pressure, it pinches that nerve. The result is sciatica, that radiating pain, tingling, or numbness that shoots down your leg. And it doesn't stop there. You are also physically compressing the veins and arteries in your legs, most notably the popliteal artery behind your knee. This restricts blood flow. If you suffer from leg swelling, varicose veins, or that heavy leg feeling, this habit is like pouring gasoline on the fire. So, what is the solution? It's beautifully simple. We'll call it the 90-degree rule. Your goal, whenever you sit, is to create 2 perfect 90-degree angles, one angle at your hips and one angle at your knees. To do this, your feet must be flat on the floor, about shoulder width apart. This is the most stable, neutral, and protected position for your pelvis and spine. Now, many of you will say, "My feet don't reach the floor." This is a critical problem. If your chair is too high and your feet dangle, your body's instinct is to cross them at the ankles for support. This is just as damaging, as it twists the lower leg and puts pressure on the knee. The solution is the footstool fix. Get a small footstool, a stack of books, or a yoga block. Place it under your feet so that your knees are at that perfect 90-degree angle. This small adjustment instantly takes all the pressure off your sciatic nerve, opens up your circulation, and keeps your pelvis perfectly neutral. At number 3, we have a habit that is truly surprising because it's one that people often adopt when they are trying to have good posture. This is what I call the percher. This is the habit of sitting right on the edge of your chair, often leaning forward, with your back completely unsupported. You see this all the time with people working at a desk, eating at a dining table, or doing a hobby. You feel like you're sitting up straight. You feel active, engaged, and responsible. But the science of ergonomics tells a very different, and ultimately very painful story. Leading ergonomists and physical therapists have studied this exact posture for decades. What they found is that perching doesn't actually engage your strong, deep core muscles in the way you think. Instead, it forces the small, delicate erector spinae muscles in your lower back to do all the work. These muscles are not designed for endurance. They are phasic muscles, meant for movement, not for holding the entire weight of your upper body for 20, 30, or 60 minutes at a time. And this is the direct reason why, even after a day of consciously trying to sit up straight, your back still feels tight, achy, and full of knots by 5 p.m. You've been doing the equivalent of holding a 5-pound weight in your outstretched hand all day. Eventually, the muscle fails. That soreness you feel, that burning ache, isn't a sign of good posture. It's a sign of profound muscle fatigue and overuse. Here's the critical mechanical problem. When you perch on the edge of your seat, you create a massive, unsupported gap between your lower back and the chair's backrest. You have zero lumbar support. This position, often paired with leaning forward, forces your spine into a shallow curve while placing immense tension on the muscles and ligaments trying to hold you upright. This tension is what creates myofascial trigger points. These are those hyper-irritable, pea-sized knots you feel in your back muscles. These trigger points don't just cause local pain, they are notorious for referring pain. A trigger point in your lower back can shoot pain down into your hips, glutes, and even your upper legs, making you think you have a hip problem when the real culprit is your chair. The solution, thankfully, is incredibly simple, and it's built into the very design of your chair. We'll call it the scoot all the way back solution. You must use the chair's backrest. It is not optional. Your goal is to slide your hips back in the chair until your sacrum, your tailbone area, makes firm contact with the back of the chair. Eliminate that gap. If your chair is flat and doesn't have good built-in lumbar support, you must use that towel roll we discussed in habit number 5. This simple action allows your overworked back muscles to finally relax and lets your core stabilizers and the chair's structure do the supporting work, just as they were intended. Now, let's take a quick pause. If you've recognized yourself in any of these first 3 habits, the sloucher, the leg crosser, or the percher, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It truly helps this vital health information reach more seniors who might be suffering in pain without knowing why. And we have more powerful senior health tips coming your way every single day, so be sure to subscribe. We are now approaching our top 2, and I'll be honest, this next one at number 2 might be the most controversial on this list. It may even be the hardest for you to accept, because it attacks the very definition of comfort. I call it the comfort trap. This habit is the act of sitting, often for hours, in your favorite deep, plush sofa, or that super comfortable sinking recliner. We have been sold the idea that sinking into a soft surface is relaxing and good for us. The medical and biomechanical data, however, is clear. It is catastrophic for your functional mobility. A groundbreaking 2024 study from a German gerontology institute coined a term for what happens in these chairs: acquired gluteal amnesia. It's also known as dead butt syndrome, and yes, that is a real clinical term. The researchers used EMG sensors to measure muscle activity and found something extraordinary. The moment your body sinks into that plush cushion, your gluteal muscles, the largest and most powerful muscles in your entire body, responsible for keeping you upright, are completely unloaded. They are put into a state of total inactivity. The chair is holding you, so your muscles simply turn off. Over thousands of hours, these muscles don't just get weak, they literally forget their neural pathway. Your brain's connection to how to fire them begins to deteriorate. But here is the part that I need you to hear. This is the takeaway that connects directly to your life. Have you ever wondered why you have to use your hands to push yourself up out of that recliner? That rocking motion you need to gain momentum? That push-off? We think we are just using our arms to help, But what is really happening is that your glutes have failed to fire. You are pushing with your arms because the largest muscle in your body cannot do its primary job, lifting you from a seated position. This, right here, is the single greatest predictor of future falls. It's not your arm strength, it's your glute weakness. Every time you sink into that chair, you are training your body to be weaker, training it to be dependent on your arms, and training your glutes to forget their job. So, what's the solution? Do you have to throw away your favorite chair? No. The solution is the firm-up cushion. You must stop sitting on the soft, sinking part of the cushion, go to a home store, or even just use a firm bed pillow and place it on your chair before you sit. This firm surface forces your sit bones to take the load. It keeps your glutes slightly engaged and, most importantly, prevents them from being turned off. It creates a stable base, which is the first step to retraining those muscles to fire again. And here we are, the number one habit, the one I promised you at the beginning, the single practice that is more destructive to your hips and knees than slouching, more than crossing your legs, and even more than that sinking sofa. The most dangerous sitting habit of all isn't how you sit. It's the 30-minute freeze. This is the habit of remaining perfectly stationary, in any position, even a good one, for longer than 30 minutes at a time. The medical consensus on this, from the World Health Organization to the Mayo Clinic, is unanimous, and it is truly terrifying. Studies using advanced Doppler ultrasound imaging have shown that after just 20 to 30 minutes of complete stillness, blood flow to the lower legs can decrease by a staggering 50%. Your body, in an attempt to conserve energy, literally begins to shut down circulation to your extremities. But here is the mechanism that is actively wrecking your joints. Your hips and knees are synovial joints. This means they do not have a direct blood supply like your muscles do. They get their nutrients, their oxygen, and their lubrication from a substance called synovial fluid. This vital fluid is only circulated through the joint when you move. It's a pump system. When you move, you flush the joints with nutrients. When you freeze for 30 minutes, that pump stops. Circulation ceases. You are, in effect, starving your own cartilage. The synovial fluid becomes thick and stagnant. At the same time, your muscles, ligaments, and tendons begin to cool down and shorten. Your body receives a clear signal. We are not needed. And so, the ligaments that cross your knees and hips begin to stiffen. The muscles begin to atrophy. Here is the feeling you already know. Have you ever stood up after finishing a 2-hour movie or after a long car ride and let out that groan? That feeling of absolute stiffness? That moment where you feel 90 years old and you have to take a few seconds just to straighten your back and get your legs to work again? That feeling is not just old age. That is the feeling of physical damage happening at a microscopic level. That is the feeling of your synovial fluid having dried up. It is your ligaments physically tightening. It is the creaking and popping of dry cartilage, grinding together. The solution, however, is the simplest and most profound of all. It is the golden 30-1 rule. For every 30 minutes you are seated, you must stand up for 1 minute. That is it. You don't need to do exercises. You don't need to walk around. Just stand. When a TV commercial comes on, stand up. When you finish a chapter in your book, stand up. Set a small kitchen timer. The simple act of standing re-engages your glutes, shifts your pelvis, and, most importantly, reloads your joints. That single weight-bearing motion forces the synovial fluid to flush through your hip and knee capsules, lubricating them instantly. It tells your body you are still active and reverses the entire cascade of decay. This 1-minute habit is the single most powerful thing you can do to stop the freezing of your joints. So there you have it. As you've now seen, the true enemy isn't the chair itself. It's the seemingly harmless habits that we perform on it every single day. You don't need to throw away your favorite recliner or your comfortable sofa. You simply need to bring awareness to how you sit and break the patterns that are causing the damage. Now, we want to hear from you. Be honest in the comments below. How many of these 5 habits did you recognize in yourself? And which one do you think will be the hardest one to break? Share your experiences with us. Thanks for watching.